reload my window real quick. All right, Patrick. So, and I apologize that I may not be looking straight into the camera as we present because I have several screens. And so it may look like I'm not looking straight at you, but I am. All right. So from the enablement perspective, first I will give a brief overview of how we want to structure our conversation. We will have several sessions to help cover the key aspects of the enablement and the functionality of the Spyderbat console. So we want to make sure that you and your team are very comfortable with three main components of being proficient with the Spyderbat platform. Number one, it is the assessment of the platform compatibility and suitability for the purposes and security goals that the potential customer or team have in mind. And also making sure that the installation process is in alignment with the customer infrastructure and infrastructure requirements. So we'll talk about installation compatibility and how to guide the customer through the installation process and how to validate that the installation was successful and that the agents have successfully connected to the customer infrastructure and are working as expected. So that will be the topic number one that we will talk about. Topic number two is obviously once the agents are installed, they immediately start sending data to the Spyderbat console. So we want to make sure that the data is visible, that the customer knows where to find it, the customer knows what kind of data Spyderbat collects, how Spyderbat collects that data, why, what it does with that data, and how this data is represented through the console, where it can be found, and what you can do with that data for the purposes of observability aspect. So we'll talk about that. This will include all of the different dashboards that we have in the console, the ones that come out of the box, the ones that you can configure and customize for the needs of the customer. This will also cover our very powerful search tool that is the basis of a lot of other functions in the UI. And so this way you will be able to see different views. You will be able to find the best way to see the customer data and the customer environment depending on the type of infrastructure that the customer has. So data will be represented a little bit differently depending on whether we have standalone VMs or whether we have Kubernetes clusters, so things like that. So that will be the second component. And then the third session, we will dedicate to what we call tuning and configuration. So as we start collecting this data and accumulate certain baselines, we will be able to define baselines. We will accumulate sufficient samples of data to be able to see which data has security and observability value and which data needs to be filtered out, because based on customer goals and objectives, as well as priorities and infrastructure types, certain data may be considered redundant, may be considered noise, may be considered insignificant, and needs to be filtered out, reduced, suppressed, or not displayed through the front end one way or another, to allow the customer or the user of the platform to focus their attention on things that are important and things that matter. So we'll talk about tuning, we'll talk about suppressing certain types of data, we'll talk about customizing our searches, our dashboards, setting up notifications for specific types of alerts. And we'll also talk briefly about a component of our platform called Guardian that allows us to manage policies and application drift. So again, depending on customer objectives, this may or may not be applicable, but we'll briefly cover that as well. So we will have three major topics that we're going to discuss. Any questions on just the general structure of our enablement process?
No, okay, I understand.
All right. So brief organizational question as we progress into the conversation around agent installation. Before that, we need to talk about compatibility. We need to talk about whether or not Spyderbat is the right solution for the potential customer. So that this particular preface, so to speak, involves a little bit more of this pre-sales or sales conversation. I will table that for now. Down the road, if Efren feels it would be beneficial to help you get more familiar with our sales pitch, with how we, what we specifically would demo during the pre-sales process to gauge that initial interest, to get that initial excitement, what list of default questions and a line of questioning that we use in that pre-sales discovery, that might be a separate conversation to get you more proficient with just identifying potential interest. So we will assume that at this point we have gauged interest. The potential prospect would like to get more familiar with Spyderbat platform and install it in their infrastructure, whether it's a small installment or a large production rollout. So we'll kind of skip to the point of, all right, we are now getting ready to install Spyderbat. Make sense? Okay. Sounds good. All right, so first and foremost, let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to briefly walk you through our documentation portal. Give me just a second, let me get my screen share going. And I'm not sharing yet. Hold on. Come on, Teams. Apologize, guys. Give me just a second. My browser froze on me. I need to restart my browser.
Sure, no worries.
Try. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So before we get started, because I will be pivoting towards our documentation portal throughout the session multiple times, we have a separate Spyderbat product documentation portal where we have a variety of knowledge-based articles, how-to guides, and tutorials that you will notice linked in the user interface in the console from respective sections. So not only you have the ability to leverage the documentation portal on your own whenever you want to search for a specific subject. We have different topics here on the left-hand side. We have the variety of articles on installation, getting started, different concepts and and technologies that we use within. And then we have a number of tutorials for different parts of the UI, as well as reference documentation that contains, as you can tell, rule sets, configurations, and other things that you can just reference when you're writing your own rules, policies, and setting up your notification targets. But also you will be able to get to this portal, to a specific section within the portal from the user interface. So as we go through certain things, you may see links in different sections of the UI. And you will be able to see references to the documentation portal. So I will go ahead and post the link to our documentation portal in chat so you can save that, because the access to our documentation portal, the front-end access is generally through our website, spyderbat.com, but you can also access it from the UI. So for your convenience, I'm just going to post it in chat, and then you can bookmark that for future reference.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So, as you know, we have a number of operating systems and distributions that we support. So Spyderbat is a Linux-based platform because we leverage eBPF technology of the Linux kernel, which allows us to engage the capabilities of the Linux kernel without making modifications to any of its module, which is a very powerful tool. And this is how it enables us to surface all of the information at the kernel level at a very high rate of speed and at a very low resource utilization cost. So Spyderbat nano agents, which are required in order for us to be able to get to that kernel level. Spyderbat nano agent has a very small footprint in terms of resource utilization. So that is an important statement because there are agentless systems out there. We won't be able to support those. We have to have an agent installed on an underlying host in your Linux infrastructure in order for us to be able to operate. So Spyderbat Nano Agent, we have the whole set of articles over here related to the Nano Agent and what it does. But what I would like to draw your attention to is the supported operating systems. So this list is constantly being updated as we continue to roll out compatibility with new versions of operating systems and new distributions. It is a living document. If you ever come across a version that is not listed here, please let us know, because in many cases, we have native support for new versions that are being released. So we just will need to verify that and list additional additional operating system versions over here. So as you can see, we have a pretty extensive list of operating system and K8 distributions. And so as like I said, we continue to add items to this list on a regular basis. Now, even if we don't have something on the list, it is always valuable to contact us to confirm if the customer has a large fleet of machines with operating systems that we don't have in this list. We may be able to quickly add support depending, on your specific needs. Being our partner, O2B definitely has a lot of advantages as far as access to our engineering resources, visibility into our roadmap, and we do have some flexibility in ensuring that we can quickly deliver support for prospective clients with high potential. So this is the perks of partnership with us. Nano agent requirements, proxy configurations, all of the key questions that we will need to iron out before we attempt to install are listed over here, but we're also going to talk about that. So there are some requirements for the Nano agent to be able to successfully get installed. First of all, has to be a supported Linux operating system. Second, Spyderbat as a SaaS solution where all of our back-end analysis and data storage and data access is done on our side in the SaaS backend. We need to ensure that that Nano agent has the ability to communicate with our backend. We have an architectural component called an orchestration module, so that module needs to be accessible over port 443, and there is a particular URL. It's org.spyderbat.com that needs to be accessible over port 443. So obviously, internet access is important. We do work on solutions that will be available on-prem, but if this is something that is of interest, we have to discuss that separately. So right now, we're talking about our GA version, Spyderbat, which is the SaaS version. To ensure open communication over 443, if there are any proxies in the customer environment, and those proxies need to be configured to allow that access. And we have a brief reminder over here that, hey, we need to configure proxies. There will be another reference in the article regarding proxy configuration, HTTP, HTTPS configurations that will need to take place before the Nano agent installation attempt is executed. So these will be some of the questions that we will need to make sure whoever is installing Nano agent understands clearly and are able to go through that checklist before attempting the install. Now, let's say that we have decided that we identified the hosts where we want to install. Let's say we have a handful of standalone VMs and a couple of Kubernetes clusters. So in order for us to successfully install Nano agents, we need an engineer on the customer side or somebody from O2B with access to the customer infrastructure that has administrative level permissions. So this is extremely important when we're talking about Kubernetes clusters. Because if we don't have the right permissions, then the installed components will get the right access to the cluster API. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there are any questions so far.
Okay, I understand. It's okay. No question.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, let's continue. So let's say we have the right resource identified who will be responsible for the installation process, who has the right permissions, who has the right access. We are going to start with installing on the regular standalone VMs first. And I'm using our Spyderbat demo environment. As you can see, we already have some agents installed, so it's not a brand new clean slate environment. However, the installation process is going to be the same regardless whether it's a brand new organization in the Spyderbat console or whether this organization already has some assets onboarded. So on the left-hand side in the navigation menu at the very top, the first item that we have is called sources. And here the reference is to the sources of data that we collect. So we will go into this very first section. And as you can see, we have the button to add a source. So we can click on that and it will give us a number of options of what we want to install. So like I said, there are different types of underlying assets that can accept a Nano agent. It can be a Kubernetes cluster. It can be a non-ephemeral virtual machine, which is a more permanent machine that doesn't, go up and down a lot. It could be an ephemeral virtual machine. Then we're going to talk about an AWS agent, which serves a separate purpose. and the Falco integration, which also a separate type of installation. So we're going to focus on the top 3 at the moment, and then we'll talk separately about the AWS agent and Falco integration. So for a non-ephemeral VM, which will be a regular standalone VM, we have the opportunity to just run a curl command. So as you can see right now, we are provided with a curl command that we can highlight and copy, right? We have this copy command button. That's all I need is to click that copy command button, then go and log into my machine and run that curl. I don't need to do anything else. So we already have our registration key embedded into the curl. This registration key is unique to my organization, which is called Spyderbat demo. So all of our data in the back end is segregated using 2 unique identifiers. Of course, there are more, but for the benefit of our conversation, there are 2 unique identifiers that you should be aware of. There is a organization ID, and then there is a unique registration code for our agents. So this registration code will be unique to your organization. If I go and log into a different organization right now, for example, this one starts with MCZ, right? If I'm gonna go and pick O2B organization right here, and I decide to add a source, and of course, I'm not going to install anything. As you can tell, this registration code is completely different.
Yeah.
So this registration code will be unique for all for your organization, but it will be the same for all agents in your organization. Once agent is installed, it gets its own unique agent ID and machine ID, and there is the whole bunch of other identifiers that are specific to that host and to that agent. But for the purposes of segregating your data in the console, we are referencing this registration code, which is unique to the agents of the O2B organization. And then here at the top in the URL field, you see we have this alphanumeric code. This is your unique organization ID. So O2B organization in our backend has this specific ID associated with it. So this is how we segregate all our data in the backend. Now, Spyderbat demo environment is a little bit different because it's on a different, it has its own separate backend for demo purposes. It doesn't have that org ID. We made it recognizable, Spyderbat demo, but that is unique organization ID. All right, so we're gonna go back to our installation situation over here. So the widget and the curl is essentially the same thing, just slightly different format, right, to install through the widget versus to run a curl manually. You will copy that command, you will log into your VM, you will run that, and you will see the progress of the agent installation happening right in front of your eyes. On the right over here, you will see the helpful links. This is the reference to our documentation portal that I was talking about. Linux support, Nano agent installation how-to guide. If you are unsure, if somebody needs additional help, they will be redirected straight to this section of the documentation portal. We also have access to our help support team. You can send us an email to request assistance. And then we also have our community Slack, which is where you can ask questions. If you're using Slack, you can look for knowledge base articles, references from other users. This is like a community board, message board thing, so to speak. Now, being a partner, O2B is going to have additional perks, such as access to the partner support portal, which will provide immediate connection with our support resources through the portal and ticket tracking and all that stuff. And then, of course, we will create either dedicated Slack or Teams or any other channel where we could interact in real time and provide support to you guys in real time in your private channel so that we have multiple conversations without having to log a ticket necessarily, and have a informal chat about any questions you guys might have. All right, so within some of these installation forms, you will be able to add custom tags. Sometimes they will be marked as optional. This is to align with any policies that you have regarding tagging the resources in the customer environment. Some companies use that, some companies don't require that, but if you using certain vendor tools, you want to tag things, this might be something that you would use. If it's required, you will see that it's required. If it's optional, you do not have to populate that. But if you were to add a key, you will see that now our curl command added a tag in the command itself for your convenience. So again, if this is something that is needed, that you want to do, you can use that, and we will automatically update that command to include the tags. In the cluster situation, if we are installing on a K8 cluster, you will see that we need certain things from you, such as cluster name. So because you understand that in the environment, the default cluster names could be hard to recognize. And if you installed multiple clusters, it will be difficult sometimes to see which installation refers to which resource. Also in the Spyderbat UI, we want to make sure that we name those clusters for your convenience so that when you pull up data, you know which cluster you're pulling them from. So we want you to populate cluster name for us so that we could create a deployment Helm chart for the cluster with that name. So if you're deploying multiple clusters, you will have them by name. The name could be specific to the cluster use. It could be certain naming convention that the customer has for their resources, anything like that. Now, of course, if you gave it a name and then you need to change it down the road, there are ways that we can do that, but we would encourage you to have that kind of predefined before you proceed with the installation. And the same with the cluster, you have the ability to use the Helm installation process to where you copy that whole Helm chart and run it on the cluster using administrative permissions. Now with clusters and with the Helm chart essentially is a compilation, is a daemon set, right? So when we run a Helm chart, it is installed as a single deployment of different resources in certain specific order. There are situations where due to customer requirements, deployment practices, or automation needs, or roles and responsibilities within the teams, certain components of this daemon set have to be deployed manually by different owners. So we can accommodate that. Manual deployment of the daemon set is something we support. It is a little bit more involved in terms of time and resources from your side, but if this is what the customer needs, then this is something that can be done. So Helm chart is preferred deployment method. It is easier, it is faster, it eliminates the risk of error when you're deploying separate, components. But we do have some customers whose internal processes require them to deploy as a daemon set manually because different teams have to deploy different components. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So once we have deployed our agent, whether it's ephemeral, non-ephemeral VM, or a cluster Helm chart, the first thing that will happen is that over here, you will see a little progress bar. It will say, the package is copied, the package is being downloaded, things like that, the little check boxes. It usually takes anywhere between a minute to 2-3 minutes for the agent to be fully provisioned and populate in the UI. The initial installation of an agent will, after a couple of minutes, will show it in new state. That agent will, at that provisioning phase, consume a slightly more resources. As you recall from our presentations and prior conversations, the utilization is about 1 to 2% of CPU and memory resources of the underlying host. During the provisioning phase, it may be slightly higher because we need to pull all of the packages, install all of the packages, get the agent connected, registered, and get everything started. And that initial provisioning / stabilization period of time usually takes about 5 or so minutes at the most. A lot depends on the how busy your node is where you're installing your cluster. Also depends on how your internet connection with our backend works. If it's a very busy channel, or if it's easily connected to our backend. So during that initial provisioning, you may see slightly elevated CPU utilization, slightly elevated memory utilization, and it may take a little bit of time for the agent to get to healthy state as all of the components of the agent start to come up. So where will we see the agent once it's installed, and what would it look like? So we have a section called Agent Health. And in Agent Health section over here, you will see all of your Spyderbat Nano agents as they come up. There are a lot of different pieces of information in here, but most important one is obviously the health. This is the overall summative of the agent health. Let's talk a little bit about what agent health comprises of, and that requires us to talk about what is a nano agent and how it operates. So Spyderbat Nano Agent consists of 6 different sensors within that agent that are responsible for collecting different types of information from the underlying host. Because we are Spyderbat, we have little bats within, play on words. We call these sensors bats. So you can see over here we have active bats. And as you can see, we have one that has 6 out of 6, and we have one that has 1 out of 1. So these are 2 different types of agents, and we'll talk about why they're different. But all of the standard nano agents contain 6 active bats. Let's take a look at what these bats are. It will take me a minute. Here we go. So we will start from this side. So we have 6 bats. We have given them names just historically based on initial development and association, but they're called Oathbat, Bashbat, Grim Reaper, Procmon, Snapshot, and Scentless. So these are all different sensors. To make it easier, I'm going to send you a 1-pager that talks about these bats and describes specifically what each of them does, so you can use it as a reference. I think it will be easier just to keep it on hand. You can even get it translated if you'd like. But essentially, all of these different sensors, each of them is responsible for specific type of information they collect. One collects information on connections, one collects information on processes, and so on and so forth. And so we want to make sure that all these components are healthy and able to collect data, because if they don't, then we will have some gaps potentially in gathering information from the host. We'll be missing connections, or we'll be missing some process information and things like that. So we have 3 health statuses that will indicate if the sensor is healthy or if the whole agent is healthy. You can see current bat status here on the left-hand side. All of them are showing in green. And so our overall bat status is green, but the health status is in a warning state, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. So we have three health statuses: normal, warning, and then critical is when it will be in red and you will see a little exclamation mark. So when everything is normal, I don't think we need to talk about that. That means everything is working as expected. Let's talk about the warning. So warning indicates that there is slightly elevated usage by the sensor. Warning means you don't need to take action, but it is merely to show you that, for example, the CPU utilization is slightly higher than we would expect, or the bandwidth or the memory utilization is slightly higher. If a bat is in warning state, it means that it is showing a spike in activity for that specific type of data. So it's not as much that, oh, it's not healthy. It is not losing data. It is not having difficulty connecting, but it's being overutilized, possibly due to specific usage patterns on your host, certain applications that are running on your host, number of people that are trying to access that host or those applications and things like that. So it is essentially just to draw your attention to the fact that a particular sensor is working really, really hard, and you may want to know why. Oh, is it because we run certain applications? Is it because it's peak time and this host is being hit a lot and things like that? If something is in critical state, this is where we do need to take action. So if one of the sensors is in critical state, what it means is that it's unable to do its job properly. If certain sensors are critical and certain sensors for the overall agent health and certain sensors are not. So we may have one of the bats in critical state, but the overall agent health will still be normal in warning state. This is because, like I said, certain sensors are of higher priority for the overall health. Whenever you see something in critical state, the first thing that we would want you to do is ensure that there is connectivity between the agent and our backend. Especially at the installation phase, if the agent comes up and it's in unhealthy state, the most common reason is the lack of connectivity with our backend and inability of our agent to call home. Could be proxy configuration was not set up correctly. Something is blocking our ability to communicate with our backend over port 443. Or we are installing an agent on a machine that doesn't have any resources available for it. It's at capacity already. So even 1% is a problem for the machine to allocate towards the nano agent. So these would be the most common things that the installation engineer can identify and troubleshoot. But if all of these come back as good, then obviously Spyderbat can help figure out if there is something else going on. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if you have any questions.
Okay, no questions.
All right, sounds good. So, like I said, initial install, we need to make sure that we have connectivity, sufficient resources to give us about 2-3% in the beginning, and then it will stabilize and drop to 1-2% once the agent is fully provisioned. And then you will be able to go into this console and verify that your agent is running, your agent is healthy, and if it is healthy, it is sending us data. So I'm going to go back to agent health. We talked about the standard agent that has 6 bats. I know you saw one that only has 1 sensor. Give it a second. Here we go. So there is another agent over here, as you can see, which has, I'm going to close this, which has only 1 bat. So this agent has a distinct name. It says cluster monitor. So this is an auxiliary agent that is specific to Kubernetes only. So when you install, run a Helm chart to deploy Spyderbat on a cluster, it will install nano agents on every node in your cluster, every worker node, if you want master node in your cluster, and it will deploy an additional agent called cluster monitor, which taps into the Kubernetes API and provides us the cluster level information. So this agent will only have one sensor, and it will have the same kind of view, but only with one sensor within, excuse me, in the health console. Yes, thank you, Efren. So when I share my screen, it usually takes a minute for the console to load. It doesn't like the Teams. All right. So as you can see, this one has a different sensor called Lighthouse Bat. We gave it, a memorable name, but the concept is the same. It collects specific cluster level information. It will only be available in Kubernetes, and it will have a distinct name, cluster monitor. You don't have to deploy it separately. It's part of the daemon set that is deployed. And so for each of your clusters, you will be able to have that additional agent. Now, what's important to wrap up the installation on the Kubernetes cluster is that depending on how your cluster is set up, you may have different taints within the cluster. So by default, if there is a taint on the node, Spyderbat Nano Agent is not going to be installed on that node. So what we have developed to help ensure that we do not skip the nodes with taints, and that we give the installation engineer the opportunity to determine if they want to create tolerations for the taints, is we have created a pre-deployment sizing script that scans the cluster before the deployment and spits out a report saying, you have so many master nodes, so many worker nodes, and some of these have the following taints. So this allows us to create tolerations ahead of time, customize the Helm chart to add tolerations, and this way when we run the Helm chart, we make sure that we install the nano agents on all the nodes that we wish to install on. By default, the default Helm chart that you saw in the console will install only on the worker nodes. If you want to install on the master nodes, you will have to add some customizations to the Helm chart. We do provide a number of customized Helm charts already with master nodes installations and some of the most common taints that we have seen across our customer portfolio in the past. So you will be able to just request a Helm chart that accounts for certain taints, and we will be able to send that to you. So that will allow to ensure that you do not skip any nodes. Otherwise, you will get a report that says, hey, you have so many nodes, but you only have so many agents installed because some didn't get scheduled due to taints on those nodes. So these would be the conversations you would have with the customer prior to installation. You would perform analysis of their Kubernetes infrastructure, determine if there are any customizations that we need to accommodate, and we can help customize those Helm charts for you to meet the needs and infrastructure requirements of that specific customer.
Okay.
Right? Awesome. I'm going to pause. I know it's a lot of information. We covered two of the most common installation types, the standalone VM and the Kubernetes cluster. We covered some of the most common troubleshooting guidelines. What if the agent is not healthy when it's installed? What should be the first couple of things to check? And so we covered the section of the UI that will allow you to verify that your deployment was successful, that the agent registered and is looking healthy.
Okay.
So I know we still have a few minutes left in the call. I'm going to pass it on to Efren because I gotta get ready for the next meeting. So, Efren, if that's okay, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And
Anna.
so we will continue this sessions, Patrick. If you have any questions, next time we can start with your questions regarding this part, and we can cover questions if you want, and we can proceed to the data review in the console.
Okay, I try speak English, okay? Okay, no have questions. It's a easy process, and I can say acostumado. I can normal process. Just install another tools, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. I know. Well, I'll take over here and
All right. Thank you,
wrap up
Patrick.
with Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you, guys.
Patrick, ¿alguna consulta o algo necesitará aclaración? Es un poco de información, ¿no? Pero la idea es darte el entrenamiento y vamos a decir la próxima semana nos reunimos para cubrir la siguiente parte, ¿no? Del entrenamiento. No sé si te queda alguna duda, alguna consulta que tengas.
Não, ok. Até o momento tá tudo tranquilo, tá? Bem tranquilo, Efraim.
¿Para qué día y horas se te facilitan la semana que entra para reunirnos para seguir los siguientes pasos de entrenamiento?
Podemos mantenernos los martes a la misma hora?
Ahora le hicimos a las 2 del tiempo mío, o serían las 5 tuyas, ¿no?
Las 4.
O a las 2 son las 4 de...
Sí.
Ahorita ya van a ser las 4 ya.
Isso, a hora é 10 para 5.
Ok. Listo, entonces si le hacemos, déjame... Y para la observabilidad, ¿qué usan ahorita ustedes, Patrick? ¿O qué usan algún SEM, alguna otra herramienta de visibilidad o...
Nosotros usamos Datadog, usamos Grafana, né? Normalmente são essas duas ferramentas.
Grafana. Ok, para la Agentic AI. Ok. Muy bien. Grafana, ¿y cuál otra me dijiste?
Datadog.
Muy bien. Me estaba preguntando el equipo de desarrollo porque como queremos trabajar con ustedes en conjunto, ¿no? Como partners de diseño. Me estaban preguntando eso, pero... Ok, listo. Ya te mandé la invitación, ¿no? Para next week. En cualquier momento, alguna duda, alguna consulta que tengas, déjame saber y con gusto te apoyamos ahí.
Sí.
Y si no tienes alguna consulta, pues te regreso un poco de tiempo y nos vemos el martes.
Thank you, Efraim.
Sí. Listo, Patrick. Hasta luego.
Listo, hasta luego. peidou.
Então, é a cachorra roncando.
Não parece que você peidou, você
Não
deixou esse
parece.
áudio. Claro que parece.
Não.
Claro que parece, é uma bufona, Rafaela. É, manda esse áudio aí.
Tá, deixa eu mandar. Oi, Rô, tudo bem? Ai. Oi, Rô, tudo bem? Então, eu e a Lu, a gente tava pensando em fazer a confraternização dia 6 do mês que vem, que é no sábado. Aí a gente não sabe ainda se a gente vai fazer numa cafeteria. Eu acredito que numa cafeteria. Porque eu acho que de noite num restaurante não seria legal, né? Aí eu queria saber se tem disponibilidade, se BH, o que você acha. Isso é uma planta? Meu Deus, só eu achei.
Esse áudio grava esse peito também. Só vocês.
Não, apareceu pra mim assim no meu pai. Eu fiquei tipo, gente, não é possível que isso eu achei que você ia falar isso, tipo, nada a ver. Aí eu